Welcome to Weekly Briefing. I'm Rion. The White House is no longer just an asylum for the brainwashed. It's devolved into a high-security hospice for the Biden family. And it does the swamp no good that Joe Biden, their drugged-up We Hate Trump mascot, is dragging everyone down with him in the process. So this week, they're taking the Delete Trump mission into their own hands by kicking off the J6 Inquisition. The televised J6 hearings is the swamp's desperate last chance to beat Trump. Spoiler alert, the J6 hearings are nothing more than a den of political prostitutes play-acting Judge Judy. Leading the charge is Washington's Miss Piggy doppelganger, Liz Cheney.
I will do everything I can to ensure that the former president never again gets anywhere near the Oval Office.
To Liz and the Trump-hating left, Donald Trump and the America First movement he sparked represent a movement the establishment class could only dream of creating in scope, scale, and passion. But since they cannot control it, they must destroy it. To destroy it, they need to make J6 as dramatic and life-altering as possible.
Dates that instantly remind all who have lived through them where they were and what they were doing when our democracy came under assault. Dates that occupy not only a place on our calendars, but a place in our collective memory. December 7th, 1941, September 11th, 2001, and January 6th, 2021.
For the Trump-hating left, J6 was a day of violent infamy, and it was all Trump's fault.
An attack on the American people by trying to rob you of your voice in our democracy, and in doing so, lit the fuse that led to the horrific violence of January 6th, when a mob of his supporters stormed the Capitol sent by Donald Trump to stop the transfer of power.
To be clear, at no point did Trump send his supporters to the Capitol to stop the transfer of power. Here's a recap in his own words.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Donald Trump tweeted, but he did not condemn the attack. Instead, he justified it. These are the things and events that happen, he said, when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who've been badly and unfairly treated for so long. As you will see in the hearings to come, President Trump believed his supporters at the Capitol, and I quote, "We're doing what they should be doing."
Cheney neglected to finish reading the rest of Trump's tweet. It said, "Go home with love and in peace." But Liz goes on.
President Trump gave no order to deploy the National Guard that day.
Not only did Trump approve the use of 20,000 members of the National Guard on January 4, Nancy Pelosi and D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser outright rejected Trump's offer of additional security. Kash Patel, then Chief of Staff to the Acting Secretary of Defense, shared this with me in an interview last year.
He gave it to us days ahead of time. We used that in the days leading up to go to our law enforcement partners because protecting the Capitol is a law enforcement role. It's not a military role. We went to the Capitol Police and said, we don't have much intel, and the FBI is supposed to have more, but do you guys need support? We went to them the day and the 2 days before, and they told us flat out no, and they put it in writing multiple times. So we could not call in the National Guard until they made that request. So that's what we were doing in the days leading up to it.
Then consider the fact it is the job of the 2,000 officers making up the federal police force to protect the Capitol grounds. They have a budget of $500 million. This is more than enough resources to have handled a crowd outside the Capitol. Add to this, both Mitch McConnell's and Nancy Pelosi's sergeants-at-arms refused any additional support, despite DOJ intelligence indicating a large crowd might arrive at the Capitol. And would the J6 committee care to explain why Capitol Police were waving people in and once inside, suddenly and without warning, closing the Capitol doors behind them? And keep in mind, not one police officer died that day. 4 protesters did die. Ashley Babbitt was shot in the neck, point blank, and killed. An elderly Roseanne Boyland was witnessed beat to death by a Capitol police officer. The other 2 fatalities were heart attacks following stun grenades. Again, not a single police officer died on January 6. Joe Biden, media, and Capitol Police all lied for months about the death of Officer Brian Sicknick. The big lie was that Sicknick was bludgeoned to death with a fire extinguisher. Not only did the coroner debunk this detail, the New York Times was forced to issue a retraction. Sicknick died of a stroke. And we hear this term armed insurrection over and over again, that protesters stormed the Capitol with guns and ammo. Not a single person has been charged with carrying a firearm into the Capitol. The only person who fired a shot was Officer Byrd when he killed Ashley Babbitt. And what about federal involvement on J6? Remember Ray Epps, the man caught on camera who urged over and over again for everyone to storm the Capitol? He was on the FBI's most wanted list. And then, all of a sudden, his name was quietly removed. He's yet to be questioned by the J6 committee or arrested. This is just a sampling of the lies so easy to refute with basic facts when it comes to the J6 charade. And while it's a Democrat-led travesty, the star figure in all this is the ever-jealous, barely Republican Liz Cheney.
I say this to my Republican colleagues who are defending the indefensible. There will come a day when Donald Trump is gone, but your dishonor will remain.
Such statements earn her the temporary love of the press and the Democrats as testament to Trump's demise. But why is Liz leading the charge? She's protecting a dying political system, the one Trump and the America First movement so threaten. Trump symbolized for most of his voting base a conservative not owned by anyone, a man untethered to special interests, a self-made man who could not be controlled. That's why it was so important for the establishment to push the Russia hoax. Trump had to be owned by someone, or else he would expose to the American people the establishment's system. What do I mean by the system? I mean how politicians enter office poor and exit rich. This is the system. Democrat Representative Judy Chu was, according to Open Secrets, worth less than 6 figures in 2008. 10 years in Congress later, her estimated worth is $7 million. Republican Senator Roy Blunt started off 10 years ago with a net worth of $600,000. Now, he's worth an estimated $11 million. A nice nest egg for Missouri. Democrat Representative Rosa DeLauro, daughter of 2 penniless aldermen from New Haven, Connecticut, has now an estimated worth of $20 million. This on a salary of under $200,000 a year and maintaining at least 2 residences. These are the small fish compared to Nancy Pelosi's $135 million and the Mitch McConnell's $150 million. But ask yourself, if you think Chu's $7 million, Blunt's $11 million, and DeLauro's $20 million are small numbers by comparison, what do you have in your savings account? These are, quote, public servants. Liz Cheney, the anti-Trump establishment, the desperate left, they all need to shame Trump into oblivion, or else their shot at maintaining their corrupt system dies with Biden's tanking legacy. And that's my opening statement. When we return, we have the one man besides Trump the J6 committee hates, fears, and despises most. We'll be right back.